you don't want to, but we are going to be recording the session. So again, welcome. Make sure that you write your name in the chat with your region number. That would be much appreciated. And if you could sign in on the attendance sheet, that is going to ODE, I'm saying, yeah. And so that's also on your agenda. If you could do that, that would be much appreciated as well. So you can rename yourself in the Zoom with your preferred pronouns. That would be great as well. And we're going to start with a little bit of an activity here. I'm going to send you to breakout rooms. And I am going to look for my breakout rooms here. And in the breakout rooms, you're going to have the opportunity to share what you have done, if anything, with the videos that we recorded for the Migrant Youth Forum. So that's the activity that we're going to do first. But we're going to start with Kayla because Kayla volunteered to read us the land acknowledgement. And it is important that we acknowledge the land that we are in. So Kayla, thank you for doing that. I appreciate your volunteering.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. I'll go ahead and start. Let it be acknowledged that the Willamette Education Service District facilities are located on many of the traditional homelands of the Yamhill, Buckyamute, Chimiqueta, Santiam, and Ahonchayuk tribes of Calipulians. Let us not forget that the indigenous people were forcibly removed from this geographic area and put on the Grand Road Reservation. This land acknowledgement is only an introduction and recognition of a part of Oregon's deep indigenous history. Henceforth, we honor all tribal descendants and elders of the past and present that call this land their home, many of whom are members of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Road Community of Oregon.
Thank you, Kayla, for doing that. I appreciate that very much. And we need to acknowledge where we are. Moving forward, we're going to into breakout rooms, and you are going to be thinking about the Migrant Youth Forum. Seems like a long time ago, but it was just last month. How have you used the videos and what has been the follow-up after that? So you're going to go into breakout rooms here, a couple people in each room, and you're only going to be meeting here for, maybe 4 minutes or so. Okay. And the mission is you're going to talk to your neighbors in the breakout rooms and find out how you've been using those videos that were recorded for the Migrant Youth Forum. So are you ready to go? Actually, I'm going to make 4 minutes. 4 minutes should be enough. Okay, here we go. Is it working? Yes.
For the ones that just recently arrived,
Okay, we're all coming back to the main session. Can someone tell me one thing that you found interesting in your small group? What do you think? Something that you hadn't thought about how you were going to use this, the videos. Anyone? Did you find anything interesting? I heard a couple of things as I was going from room to room.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, how did you find it useful? Did you find any new information in the small groups on how these videos are being used in other places?
So yeah, in our group, we had one of the grad specialists, I believe her name is Priscilla Morales. I think that's right. Maybe I might have butchered your last name. Sorry, but she was using in person during their normal weekly meeting time. But she also created a Google Classroom where the students can connect and view them there. So it's kind of cool to think, I could steal that idea and have that accessible in a Google Classroom. So when I figure out how to do a Google Classroom, I think I'm going to use that.
So Robert, I'm going to invite you to meet with Priscilla on a Zoom meeting, and she will show you how to do that. So that's the invitation. How's that? Yeah.
I joyfully accept the invitation.
Good. And you know what? If you guys do it on a time I can do it too, I will join you so that I can learn some more. It's always good learning a new platform, right? So,
Yeah.
yes. And my buddy Luis here is smiling because he knows about my technology skills or lack of. So let's see. Anyone else? Anyone else wants to share how you are using them? I heard in one of the sessions that they're sharing them as career exploration kind of pieces. So meeting in a small group and going through some of them, some that might be of interest in exploring those. Anyone else?
Just to clarify, it's Priscilla Fuentes. Forgive me, Priscilla.
Yes, and she's in Ontario, I believe. Okay, so as we look at the agenda, we have all signed in, right? And we talked about the breakout rooms. We have a guest presenter here, and we are staying right on track here. Donna Bolt is the retired state coordinator for, and there she is greeting you over here on the screen. And she had been the state coordinator for McKinney Vento for a long time. The reason we are talking about McKinney Vento is because one of you, namely Vanessa, suggested that we look at different programs and resources for our students. And so when Vanessa suggested that, I looked around and I found Donna, but she had already retired. However, she is very graciously doing this for us today, and we appreciate that. For the follow-up, you will need to contact your the current state director at state level, but each one of your districts also has a coordinator for McKinney Vento. And my question to Donna was, how do migrant kids take advantage or can use the services at McKinney Vento? And she has a PowerPoint that she's prepared for us, and she is going to present. So we would like to welcome Donna and to thank her for doing this for us. Much appreciated, Donna. Thank you. I think we have shared screen with you, right?
Yeah. Okay, hopefully I can do this, and I apologize if I am not doing it right. Okay. Sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I borrowed a Chromebook from the ESD, and so this is what I'm using. It's not my usual method. Okay, there we go. Sure. All right. Can you see my?
Excellent.
Awesome.
Hey, does that work? Hopefully you're seeing that now, right?
Yes, we can
Jeanette?
all see it. Thank you, Donna.
Okay, Thanks. All right. Well, anyway, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. This is a topic that I love. I worked for the McKinney Vento program for over 32 years, and I regret leaving it as early as I did. Actually, I would have stayed working more on it. But anyway, so one of the things that is really important in this work is to talk about the way the homeless living situation is described, how which students are, I'm not coming out very well here, what the definitions are, what the eligible living situations are. A lot of migrant students are in McKinney Vento eligible living situations, and it's important to know how to get in touch with their with the people in your district who can evaluate their situation and help them with resources. There's a lot of new money in school districts now under the American Rescue Plan, and we want to make sure that everybody has access to that needs it. So these are some of the things I'm going to show you today with this PowerPoint. Some of the essentials of the McKinney Vento Act, who the district liaisons are. The district, every district has a liaison to help with McKinney Vento students. And then we'll talk, since you guys are the subject experts on graduation, we'll talk a little bit about graduation and what some of the opportunities are for McKinney Vento students in high school, including their FAFSA eligibility and some scholarships that are available. And then if you have questions during this, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll just go from there. So homeless is defined by the McKinney Vento Act as lack of a regular, fixed, and adequate nighttime residence. You'll see in newspapers and hear people use the word houseless a lot these days, thinking that maybe homeless is objectifying and houseless is less stigmatizing or something. I'm not really fond of the term houseless. I think it would be better described as housingless, but that's an even more cumbersome word. But when we're talking with students and with parents, it's important not to just throw that word out and say, oh, you're a homeless person. Oh, you're a houseless person. There are ways to talk about it without having to use language like that might objectify people or might make them feel undermined in some way.
And that is true also, Donna, about when we use about the terms with special ed. We always use the person first, student with, or a parent that, because what you just said is it stigmatizes and it creates a barrier immediately between us and the person we're trying to serve, right?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And language is really important. Most of the students who are in these homeless living situations are actually housed. They're sharing the housing of other people. They're doubled up, in other words. And, and I'm sure, in the migrant program, this is intergenerational living situations are obviously quite common. But when you have a situation where there are so many people in the housing that it's overcrowded, that is also McKinney Vento eligible. So anything in the home situation that is either preventing students from attending school or making it more difficult for them to attend because they don't have a place to do homework, or things are chaotic all the time, then those are some of the eligibilities qualifications that would generate support for McKinney Vento assistance. Due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or a similar reason, we've had a lot of experience in the last couple of years with wildfires. lot of people lost their homes due to wildfires, and even more so in California. That any kind of natural disaster or house fire, anything like that, that can cause folks to lose their housing. They are covered by McKinney Vento as well. If a family or a student is living in a motel because they can't find affordable housing, that counts as McKinney Vento. Some people wind up living in their vehicles, RVs and cars. Those are McKinney Vento eligible living situations. Living in a campground, living in a tent. All of these are McKinney Vento eligible situations. And of course, the living in a homeless shelter, obviously, or transitional housing. We also have new programs for host homes in which a family can take in a student as a boarder when they have not, don't have a house that they can stay in of their own. And these are really, really wonderful setups and are working quite well these days. So I mentioned living in vehicles and campgrounds and stuff. Substandard housing, you know, if you're lacking utilities like electricity or running water. I've found families and students living in the garage of another family, and those places often usually don't have insulation, and so that counts as well. There are some situations where the housing is just so substandard that the students are constantly sick, you know, with asthma due to mold or things like that. And that can also count. Overcrowded, we've found liaisons, you know, one of the ways that they use to determine whether or not housing is overcrowded, you can do some math on it, 1.5 people per livable room. So if you have a 2-bedroom house and you take out the kitchen and the bathroom where nobody's going to be sleeping anyway, then the remaining rooms are what they call livable rooms. So it'd be like the living room and whatever number of bedrooms are in there. And so this is one way to calculate it. It's also, I think you can kind of tell just by visiting a home whether or not it's adequate in terms of space. And another important group of students that qualify for McKinney Vento are those who are unaccompanied and in one of these living situations. They're not living with a parent or a legal guardian. They're basically on their own. It used to be the phrase runaway was used. We're kind of getting away from that because a lot of these students in these situations, it's not that they ran away from home because they didn't like the rules. They left for very constructive reasons, like they were being abused or they were not welcome because they had disclosed gender identity or LGBTQ status that was not thought of kindly in their home. And so we have some students that are have left home for actually very good reasons. So just to compare, we've got homeless families and then unaccompanied youth. So when the entire family is homeless, all of the children from birth up through high school are eligible for McKinney Vento. And we do have some programs, Migrant Head Start, Basic Head Start, all of those early childhood programs, early intervention programs, really critical for homeless students and younger children. Really important to get them connected with those programs. So as a family, the parents or guardians would be making educational decisions for the students. If you're unaccompanied homeless youth, you wouldn't be living with a parent or a legal guardian. It could be any age or grade level. We've have younger kids that are not living with a parent or a legal guardian. Maybe they're living with a relative that doesn't have custody. But in any case, we've also got students who left their home, and then parents who wish to still control where they're going to school. And the law actually gives the right to school enrollment to the student, though. That's theirs. And so parents and guardians can't deny their student enrollment under the McKinney-Vento Act. So that would play out in if you had an unaccompanied youth who left home and went and moved in with a friend in another district, and then wanted to attend school in the other district. The parents couldn't object to that and say, no, school, you can't enroll my student because, you know, he just left home because he didn't like our rules and that kind of thing. This is something that happens more frequently than I like to see. But anyway, the rights of the student to enrollment belong to the student. So based on that, do you all know students who might be eligible for McKinney-Vento that you're working with? I can't see the chat anymore, so I'm pretty sure you may already know the programs for migrant, the Title 1C program, and McKinney-Vento is titled Title 9A. Anyway, they're not mutually exclusive. You can be Title 1C, Title 3, and Title 9A all at the same time and receive services and assistance from all programs.
Donna, would you clarify something for me that you said just
Sure.
a few minutes ago? So if I'm a child and I am 12 or 13 and I have siblings at this school, at, I don't know, whatever school, Hillsborough School, for example, and I decide that I need to leave my home situation and go, I don't know, to Mount Angel or whatever. You mean that I have, even as a kid, I have the right to be able to say, well, I want to stay in Hillsborough at the school that I was going to? Is that what you said?
Yes. The McKinney-Vento allows the student to either remain at what they call the school of origin, that is the school that they were attending when they became homeless, or they can also go to the school where they currently reside. There are also some situations where there's like an alternative school that would be a better fit for the student, and the student could also attend there. But one of the cool things about McKinney-Vento is that if you have a student who is wanting to attend their school of origin, that is not change schools just because they had to move, then the school districts, excuse me, both school districts are obligated to provide, excuse me, transportation for that student to and from where they currently reside to their school of origin and back. And that transportation, you know, it also can cover sports and other school activities. So it's a really probably one of the major expenses for districts working with McKinney-Vento is that school of origin transportation, because sometimes you're crossing 2 or 3 districts and there isn't like a mileage limitation or anything on it. It's just, you know, if the student wants to do this, then the districts need to figure it out. And, you know, with every school change, research has determined that a student could lose 3 to 4 months of educational progress just because they had to change schools, new teachers, new rules, different curriculum, whatever. And so McKinney-Vento acts to prevent that kind of thing from happening for students in these living situations. So here's a little bit about McKinney Vento liaisons. Every district has a McKinney Vento liaison. Hopefully they're not calling it the homeless liaison, but there is an individual identified or designated in every district. So I can't see the chat, but maybe Jeanette, you can help me. If anybody knows who their liaison is, and you could post their name, or if you do know, that would be great. Extra points.
I'm checking
So,
to see.
great.
Woodburn got it.
Yay, Woodburn.
Ontario got it.
Maricela Hernandez, I believe, is Woodburn. And Sonia Cool.
And that's
So-
Hillsborough, and then Wildey is in region 16, I think, right? And Hood River, awesome.
Oh, way, great.
So Woodburn is
It
Margarita
used to be
Vasquez.
my job to train the liaisons, and that was actually one of the more fun things about my job, was traveling around the state before the pandemic and visiting different districts and helping to train the liaisons on how to identify students and what all the resources are that are available to them. As a side note, one of my other fun jobs at the Oregon Department of Education a while back was being a monitor for Title I-C. And I got to monitor the regular day school, but also summer schools. And those were just really special years for me. Really, really enjoyed visiting summer schools all around the state. And those are, if you have the opportunity to work at one, it's just a delightful place to be. Anyway, so the liaisons are pretty much there to assist the students with their placement and their enrollment, and then helping the families or the students to access the resources that are available, arranging their school transportation. They can also help them coordinate health resources and housing resources that are available in the communities. Food assistance is really big. Hunger is a huge problem all over the country, actually. So liaisons are served like very usually very well-versed in what's available in their areas. They can also provide clothing, school clothing, and school supplies for kids. During the pandemic, everybody was buying Chromebooks for kids. And we also can use funds to pay for connectivity, to help a family boost their Wi-Fi, if that is going to be necessary for the students to attend school. And the liaisons are also all the time trying to coordinate with other programs, from special ed through 21st century schools, all of those other programs. Hopefully there's somebody there that's helping students in homeless living situations to connect to everything that's available at the school.
So Donna, since not all of those who are present here at this Zoom session were able to identify their liaison in their school districts, I would like to encourage you to really find out who that person is. So that would be sort of like on the back sheet of your agenda, write down, that as a part of your assignment, to find out who that person is and establish some sort of a relationship with him or her, because that would be very useful for your job. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, and one of the things that the liaisons are supposed to do is to train all of the school staff in the district, all of the staff in the district at every building, about what the program is and who it serves and how they can refer students, and how the things that will help the student with. So hopefully the liaisons are doing that, and they're including graduation specialists in their trainings. I hope that's what they're doing. It's been such a weird couple of years. The virtual settings have not been very helpful for doing trainings. So Anyway, I'd much rather be out with people talking to them. Anyway. So there's a ton of money in the system right now for services for McKinney Vento students. The American Rescue Plan has helped to distribute a lot of money specifically for homeless children and youth. And there are many districts, though, that are having to go into consortia in order to tap the funds. About half of the districts were like that. But the Department of Education targeted some of Oregon's funds to the communities where the wildfires took out a lot of their housing. So that was about 30 different districts that received extra funds for that. Now these funds for the American Rescue Plan are unique in that you don't have to just spend them on educationally related purposes. The other funds that are available, McKinney Vento subgrant funds or Title I set-asides, are all pretty limited to education and school transportation and things like that. But the ARP funds, the new funds, can be used actually to help people with their rent, to prevent them becoming homeless. Can be used for motel lodging for families that don't have a place to stay. It can be used to pay for a utility bill, if that's gonna be something that gets a family evicted, or if they don't have running water and the students can't bathe, then that's something you can pay for with these funds. So letting your local district liaison know that you have families with these kinds of needs might be helpful at this time. This is something that's going to be short term. Money's only going to be available for probably another year. But anyway, talk to your local liaison about that. And on my last slide, I'm going to show you how to find out where your local liaison is. So graduation. My first point about graduation is that most homeless children, it has been found, are actually little kids, really little kids, under age 6. And then 75% of all homeless students are actually in those doubled up living situations. And so we've got a lot of little kids that are needing services. And so, as I mentioned before, getting them connected to early childhood services is really important. We know that chronic absenteeism has been one of the indicators of a student dropping out of school. And so homelessness is one of the, Anyway, keeping kids in these situations in high school is really, really important. We know that high school graduation is going to make a difference in whether or not they get out of homelessness. And so keeping kids in school is really important. The absenteeism is a huge problem. And one of the things that we noticed during the pandemic, we have been having about 22,000 homeless students identified every year. And it was going along at that same pace for year after year after year, not really changing very much. The year of the pandemic, though, we lost about 3,000 students. They just didn't show up again, or else the liaison couldn't find them again. We believe they kind of walked away and aren't attending school again. So a lot of what liaisons have been trying to do for the last few months is to locate the students that are no longer attending and try to encourage them, incentivize ways for them to come back. I mentioned the thing about the money recently. The discussion has been around how students can get $15 an hour working at McDonald's. And, some are choosing to do that instead of graduate from high school. And so we've discussed, what if we paid kids to go to school? Could we use funds to incentivize school so that working at a fast food place was not the best option? Those are discussions that we're having all over the state now. So we also tend to lose kids during those transitions between grade spans, going from elementary to middle school to high school. And so looking at those times, and especially for kids, the 9th grade on track, and hopefully you're really familiar with that. Our students in 9th grade, do they have enough credits to graduate? Are they on course to graduate? It would be, those are really important times to start helping kids to make sure that they meet those kind of goals. So homeless students, students in foster care, and migrant students, and a couple of other categories are protected in the law to against having to do extra credits that a district might have. There are 24 state required credits, but some districts will add 1 or 2 other credits for specific things they want their students to do, such as senior projects. So under Oregon law now, a student who is in a homeless living situation or foster or migrant can get a full diploma, not a modified diploma, but a full diploma with just the 24 state required credits. McKinney Vento students are also eligible to receive partial credit for schoolwork completed elsewhere. This is something that works really well in California, where they have curriculum that's down to 15-minute units, and they can somehow manipulate it so that a student can get almost precisely the number of hours or whatever that they worked on. In Oregon, it's not quite as easy as that, but it's something in McKinney Vento Act that is there if that will help a student. Losing out on what they have already worked on is something that might compel them not to come back.
I have a question for you.
For students in homeless living situations.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Sure, no, absolutely.
Jaime Rivera here with Hood River Migrant Education, and I'm a graduation coach here at Hood River Valley High School. I've dealt with a situation where, I was advocating for a student I had heard about this law that you just mentioned, where a student can graduate with a full diploma if they earn their 24 credits. Mm-hmm. In our case at Hood River Valley, the students are required to have 26.5 credits to graduate. Again, I was advocating for a student to be able to graduate with the 24 credits required, and the administration had a hard time with my request, me advocating for this student. I would describe it as them saying that it was the last resort, and that they would only use that clause or that ability, if they needed to. Like I understand what they were trying to do. Maybe they were trying to push the student to achieve more, but in this case, that law afforded that student the ability to be able to get their diploma at 24 credits. And so I'm just wondering, like, what people think about, like, that balance, right? Of like, how hard do you push, right? In this case, the administration or the counselors. I don't know what other people's thoughts are, but I was that really caught my attention. I thought that we were all on the same page in terms of, getting people, to reach their goals, helping them reach their goals. And in this case, if a student is legally able to do that, why not?
Mm.
Anyway, it's just, I guess, some comment and maybe a little bit of a question there too.
So Jaime, what happened to the student? Was the student able to get the 24 credits, or who won?
You know, I don't honestly, doctor, I don't remember exactly what happened. The student did end up graduating. I think they had to complete their, I think they still had to complete their student project. Yeah, I think that's what it was, is their end of the year student project, something along those lines.
I'm sorry to hear that happen. That would be a very interesting topic to take up with the leadership.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, because I had heard of this law, right? And I was asking the administration, and they were kind of giving me like the runaround, like you know, like I don't know. I think a lot of us in migrant education run into these situations where, you know, people are kind of, they're like, what do you know, what does this matter to you, kind of thing, you know, or who do you think you are, you know, kind of thing.
Wow.
But I don't know. It's tough sometimes.
So
Yeah.
Wildy has a question too. Wildy?
Yes, I have a question. So you're saying that students that are in McKinney, Vento, migrant, and other programs are not required to do the senior project for graduation?
That's yeah, to get the diploma. I mean, I wish I would have put down the ORS number of the law, but the law says that they should be permitted to graduate with just the state 24 state credits, state required credits.
Okay.
That if a district adds extra things on it, they need to allow these students to graduate without doing that extra thing. Now, some students will want to do that extra thing, that's senior project or whatever. And of course, it's very constructive of them to want to do that, but it can't prevent them from graduating with a full diploma.
Okay, because we do have
time.
the option for students. If we require Newber 26 credits because we require 2 years of a second language. But if a student choose to be, we can put them in the Oregon diploma, which is 24 credits. And the administrators and the
Okay.
counselors are pretty much on board with that. They don't even question that if we suggest it. But they do require to have, before pandemic, a senior project completed. So that's kind of for homeless students and other students, kind of difficult. Sometimes you have to put certain amount of hours, research, interviews, volunteer time, and that is a difficult thing for a lot of them.
Yes,
So-
absolutely. Completely.
So I'm glad to hear that they don't have to do it if they're not able to.
Right.
Jeanette, can I say something?
Sure.
As I'm hearing some of you talking about the pushback around McKinney-Vento Act, you know, I'm wondering if, because when I worked in Hillsborough, I also off and on had a lot of those pushbacks regarding preschool enrollment and keeping students in the same school, not providing documentation for office staff. And I worked very closely with my McKinney-Vento liaison, who off and on had to come into the meetings and talk. And I believe in great communication with admin staff at the school level. But I'm just curious if you are reaching out to your McKinney-Vento liaison who could provide great support when it comes to making decisions and have some tough conversations while we are advocating for students. Just curious.
I'm not quite sure I got the question.
The question was that I was curious to find out if they are reaching out to the McKinney-Vento liaison, because what I'm hearing is some graduation coaches here having some pushback from administrators regarding, you know, graduation credits and things like that. I'm wondering if they are reaching out to the McKinney-Vento liaisons. That's my experience. I am in their early learning, I work with preschoolers, and a lot of the times I had to reach out to my liaison to come into meetings, to support us and be part of meetings when we had to have tough conversations, and when we had to advocate for students. So,
Yeah.
for enrollment, there is sometimes a lot of pushback, and I can see that it is. Sometimes we have to have those tough conversations and involve McKinney Vento, and sometimes even have to show them the law.
Yeah.
A lot of the administrators, they do know, but sometimes they forget. And so I'm just wondering and curious if they are reaching out to their McKinney Vento liaison. And
Yeah.
I do believe that great communications is the key. Having great conversations with them, but then we've had times where we actually had to intervene.
Yeah. Yeah. Discussing it with them, I'm glad that you have developed a connection with the liaison. But it's sort of like an ongoing need for staff development. There's a huge amount of turnover among liaisons. It's not a job for everybody. And so there's a constant need for more training. And in some districts, the liaison may not actually be as well versed in the law as another one. But having those group meetings and coordinating and collaborating between your programs is really vital, really important. And I guess it just takes a lot of persistence, though. We do, at the department, we do try to connect with all of the liaisons and make sure they know how to do the work and what all the ramifications of the job are. But you can also discuss it with the state coordinator at the Department of Education if needed, if there's a need for specific training in your area, or if you're not sure how the law applies to a particular situation, that is also available to you.
Thank you, Donna, for bringing that up. That is true. We had to step out and actually making sure that we were collaborating with the liaison to move the work forward. So it's a lot of work.
Hopefully their competence is there too to assist you. I always enjoyed working with them, but again, it's not a job for everybody, and some districts have really, really great liaisons, and some districts just don't. And so anyway, I'll talk a little bit about the FAFSA. I'm pretty sure you guys would be aware of how FAFSA works. But if a homeless student is unaccompanied, so they're not in custody of their parents or guardians, they can apply for the FAFSA without using their parents' income as part of the calculation for their tuition assistance. And this is something that is really allowing a lot of students to go to college these days. It's a wonderful ability for them to just do it on their own without having their parents paying for their college education. And so the parents' income isn't part of the calculation, and usually they don't have an income, and so the amount of tuition assistance they get is relatively high. So liaisons and youth shelter directors are able to provide a letter of determination of McKinney-Vento eligibility for college financial aid officers. So the liaison is very valuable in that situation. A person, if you've got a student that is college bound and qualifies for McKinney-Vento and is unaccompanied, that liaison can write them the FAFSA letter, the determination letter for them. And this is one of the things that makes it really useful to know who your liaison is, because this is something that is very valuable to them. Liaisons can also, and I could have put this on a different slide, but they are often collecting documents for students like birth certificates, ID cards, state ID cards, getting social security numbers. You know, they can pay for those replacement birth certificates or other documents. So it's really handy to have a liaison available when you've got a student that has those kinds of needs. And there are a lot of foundations and nonprofits these days that are providing scholarships specifically for students who've experienced homelessness and also those in foster care. And on my last slide, I've got some links to places that provide scholarships. These are, I talked a little bit before about using the ARP funds, the American Rescue Plan funds, for incentives. One of the things that they're able to do is to purchase store cards, you know, like those, well, store cards. It could be a Safeway card, it could be a Target card, so that the student or the family can purchase their own clothing or school items. It's something that a lot of districts are not really willing to get on board with, but it is allowed in the ARP fund law. So something to think about. But another thing that the ARP money is able to do is to provide some assistance for students for non-school activities, you know, just more social activities. You know, we had a lot of students missing out on group activities, obviously, during the pandemic. And so here's some funds that can help bring kids together more often. So anybody else have any questions before I show you the last slide? I just love this picture. Well, here is my last slide. So these are hot links. So if you get to use them, hopefully they'll open up. This first one is let's see. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the McKinney-Vento Act webpage from the Oregon Department of Education. And on this website, a lot of stuff that I already talked about. But down here, district liaison contacts. We've got the whole contact list. Everybody in the state, every district in the state is right here at this list. And oh shoot, where's my PowerPoint? I lost my PowerPoint. Oh, okay.
It's back.
There we go. Okay, so anyway, so that's our program, is the one on the top, our program, the program that I retired from anyway. And you can get your liaison contacts on that list right there. We've also got a runaway and homeless youth program at DHS. This is a very good website. It shows where all of the youth shelters are in the state. Schoolhouse Connection is a great national nonprofit that has a lot of information about FAFSA and also provides scholarships for unaccompanied homeless youth or students who have been homeless at some point during their school time, either in a family or as a homeless youth. And here's a National Association, another one that provides scholarships. And if you had any other questions or wanted to talk to me for some reason, there's my email address as well. And that concludes my PowerPoint presentation.
Donna, thank you so much. I found it very informative, but we have a few hands raised. There were some other questions.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure that I see the hands, but it says here that there
Kayla?
are.
Kayla, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering if there was a way we could get the links on that last slide sent either in the chat or to us if possible.
I will add them to my notes. I will add the PowerPoint to the notes. I can do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
That'd be great. I'm looking in the chat to see if,
I would also like clarification on when it is okay for us to advocate for migrant students to graduate at 24 credits. Does it have to be in a unique situation, or is there any, is there any sort of vetting process that needs to happen in order for that to be applied in any situation?
I don't know how that works with migrant program. I'm sorry, I don't know how that would work. If somebody else has information about that would know how to advertise or how to accommodate, I'd be interested in knowing. I didn't realize that it was a problem or an issue. I will send Jeanette the text of the law if I can locate it, if that might be helpful. But starting out and having a discussion with leadership, I don't think there's any set way that, or uniform way in which this program or this element, this law works. Oregon is one of those states where everything is local control. And so districts have a lot of discretion over how they do programs. And there isn't just like one uniform set way that everybody does things. And I think this is one of those situations where you just have to do it on a case by case basis based on the student's situation and what else is going on in the district. And, I would really advocate for your students as much as you can around this thing by equipping yourself with the law and asking for justification. Why would you not apply it in this situation? Really,
Jonathan, you had a comment?
Just a quick comment. Our recruiters, they're going into they used to go into the homes. If that comes back, or they're aware of who's living together, that kind of thing. And sometimes when they do a re-interview, they find that the family does not qualify, but they're aware of the situation, and so they can report back. When I worked in Hillsborough, our recruiters would go and say, I'm sorry you don't qualify for the migrant program, but you do qualify for McKinney Vento, and I'm going to pass that information on for those services. And in many cases, they qualify for Title I or Title III or 21st century. And so there's other, if they don't qualify for our program, but I think our job as migrant graduation specialists is to advocate for kids, and they should have counselors that are advocating for them and helping them. But we're doing the extra step. We're doing the, making sure kids don't fall through the cracks, that they ask for help when they need it. And I don't know of any district that would not want all their kids, as many kids as possible, to graduate. I mean, that's like their report card. How well are we doing with the graduation rate? And if you're getting pushback, I would say, I'm trying to increase our graduation rate. Don't you want that to happen as well? And I can't think of any administrator that say, no, we don't care about that. That's a big priority. And so, like Donna said, there is local control, and some, they can decide how many credits they need to graduate, which may be different than the district right next to you, that type of thing. my understanding is if a kid's moving back and forth, they can choose the smaller of the two for graduation. And so that, check into that. I'm just, check that to make sure. But I would also say, what are our procedures as a district? And you want to be seen as not the rebel, but the one that I'm helping you guys, and let me understand how we do it. And then if they're wrong, then you should be the rebel, because we're the ones that need to advocate for our kids. But it's always good for people to say, I'm so glad that they're coming in and advocating for those kids. Rodriguez has her hand up.
And I was gonna say, I absolutely agree with Jonathan. So Newberg required 26 credits to graduate because they require 2 years of a second language. Just because college universities require students to have a second language when they enter. The fact is, like, not every kid is gonna go to a 4-year college. The reality is that most of them will start with the community college. So I do what Jonathan said. Okay, so this kid is gonna drop out if he have to come back another year for a second language. So your graduation rate is gonna go down, your dropout rate is gonna go up. So you choose, because this is what we're choosing. Now it's up to you. But the reality is that Oregon said that you need 24 credits, not 26, not 28. So if you know that and you have the facts, and then you bring your graduation specialist, you bring the migrant person, you bring everybody to fight for that kid. And I mean, it's just gonna have to happen. You just have to keep pushing to it. But every kid has a right to graduate with 24 credits.
Or said you were going to add to that.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Hi, Donna, it's good to see you again. Keep on the fight, like the old days. One of the things I wanted to mention is that a lot of school districts love the FTE. Every single year around October, there is a count that needs to be made. So every district wants to make sure that they have that FTE count. And so because FTE means money. So every student they can count means money for them. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I used to be at one time in my life a dean at a community college, and our number of credits was less than the state average. We used to have a district within our catchment area where they required 27 credits for graduation. So what we did is many of our migrant students and also students in that area had dropped out of school because they could not achieve or accrue 27 credits for graduation. So what they did is that they came to us and asked if they could enroll in our community college high school graduation program. They didn't want a GED, but they did want this program. And we at that point had only required the number of, I think it was 22 at the time, but now it's up to 24. But we were able to grant that and also still have a graduation commencement for the graduates. So it can be done. Community colleges are another resource. You don't have to, you can get the same, it's the diploma that you get from your community college is the same as a high school diploma. So it's not any different, but that's another option for migrant students and all students, basically. That's it. Thank you.
Really excellent points.
Thank you, Merced. Donna, thank you for making yourself available to us and for providing your email as well for follow-up. But thank you so much for your kindness, and we all thank you for your time. And we will send a PowerPoint, Kayla. I will attach it to the notes as I do every time we have one of these meetings. So thank you, Donna, so much. Much appreciated. Lots of good information. Thank you.
Guys. You guys have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thank you. So a couple of things to follow up on our agenda. I found this very informative. I learned a lot. So I thank you, Vanessa, for bringing this to our attention. So a couple dates to remember, January 14th and May 27th. Those are the dates for the service logs. And we've talked about this before. It's been sent out in communication and so on. We're going to take a few minutes here because this is a feature that we're going to have in all of our graduation Zoom gatherings, is the updates from the field. It was suggested, as I had not been to any of these meetings before, that you were missing on those updates from the field. So where do we start? Do we start in by regions? We have just a few minutes because we need to keep this meeting into an hour and a half because that was what the coordinators asked me to do. So we need to speed it up, but tell us what's going on out in the regions. One at a time. What is the update? What is exciting and fun and great for kids?
Woodburn, we're finalizing all our seniors, finishing up the ORSA and FAFSA, and then also getting ready to send 30 kids to Washington, D.C. with the Close-Up Foundation. So that's what we've been working on. And then also, you know, enrolling the kids to UABI with Jorge, I forgot his name, sorry. Gerardo Ochoa for the Pathways to Scholarship. So yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brenda. That was Woodburn. Who else?
Region 11, we're partnering with COCC's Avanza program, which is for high school students, juniors, and seniors to be able to participate, also plan ahead for college and have kind of like a group, a cohort of sorts to get them through that. Brenda, we're also going to Close Up, so that's exciting.
Who else? Who would like to share?
Region 23, we are also working for the close-up trip. So we are doing the planning. So exciting that many schools or districts are attending to.
Yeah, Region 28 as well. I was thinking about maybe joining the close-up this year, but yeah, we're still in the process of figuring out and kind of deciding. But yeah, it's good to hear from all of. Has anyone else gone on the previous years? We would love to hear some feedback from like previous year.
So I have a question. The close-up, is it through the school or what? I mean, here at the school we have a close-up trip that the students take. But is this something different or is it through migrant?
So for Woodburn, this is our 4th year taking them. And usually it's just migrant. And it's
STEP, ELL, and migrant.
And we're sending migrant, STEP, ELL, 3s. And homeless. Did I say and homeless? Yeah. So it's usually by the district, or for migrant, it's migrant funds.
So Close-Up is a national organization that sends kids to Washington, D.C. to learn about the process. They usually argue cases like a Supreme Court thing. They visit Washington, D.C., so it's kind of like the Cadillac of all trips. And school districts go, but migrant programs can also send kids. And so if there's extra funds, if there's enough funds that you can afford that, for the kids that go, it's kind of like the chance of a lifetime to go. But it's pretty expensive. It's about $2,000 each or something like that. And so the argument in some cases is, oh, we could send twice as many kids to some of the other things. In past years, there's Mecha and Mente and all kinds of leadership opportunities. And for a lot of kids, it's life-changing, no matter which one of these they go to. And so part of it is just looking to see what funds do we have and who should go. I know Beaverton makes it, they only take like 8 kids or something, but they say, if you've gone to summer school and if you've proven yourself and if you've had leadership opportunities, then it's kind of like a competition to, you know, you may be the one chosen to go. And
Yeah.
so it's an encouragement for kids to do well, to keep their grades up. And that's how some districts use it. But there's other opportunities as well. I think with COVID, some of those things were closed. And so things are kind of opening up.
So yeah, exactly what Jonathan Woodburn did is the same. Like, we have mandatory meetings. So after, we had like 50 applications, and just a brief, the way we did it, 50 applications, and we were only able to select a few with we had a committee choosing them. We looked at grades. They had recommendation letters, and they have to be recommended, and it's something they're interested in. On top of that, we have a teacher that's going to help us do sessions, like teach them how to debate current laws, how to justice, everything. We're prepping them so when they go, because it's actually a workshop, they're there with a workbook, and they're actually learning and working on things, and they're separated within different groups. So it's a lot of learning, and hopefully this year we're going to give them 0.5 government credit. So it's also an incentive on top of, life-changing experience. We also had our parent meeting, because parents are also involved, and they have to know that their weekly meetings with the students, with the teacher, and they're learning, and they have workshops, and before we go, so they're prepared.
And so for students that are interested, for migrant students, if our district has enough funds, are we able to pay for the trip, or how do migrant funds work in this case?
Your local program receives funding, and your director or coordinator decides how they're going to spend those funds. And so it would be a good conversation for you to have with your director of what could we do, or, and right now they're doing a budget narrative for the regular year that could use those funds. Also, there was like 100% carryover from last year. If they didn't spend the funds, they have to figure out how they're going to spend those funds. And so if they didn't spend all their summer or preschool, well, they couldn't send preschool kids or summer. They could send kids during the summer, but the regular year allocation, they're filling out at the end of this month how they're going to use those funds. And so it'd be good to have a conversation. And if you have extra funds, or they have funds that they don't know what to do with, that would be a great conversation to have at the local level. But that decision is done by your director or your coordinator.
I was going to say, sorry. In Newburgh, we also, the Rotary Club was very generous. And they said, if you have 5 students, fund for 5 students, we're going to match that and give you for 5 more. So we just go present it to the Rotary Club and take kids with us and let them make the charm.
Karen, you were going to add something else?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, because here at Academy High School, we do have like I don't think they're doing it this year because of COVID, but they usually do that every year, and they offer that government credit for seniors. And I know that I think it was 4 years ago, we were able to send like 2 students, and the migrant paid for the something like that. So, I thought it was just like a one-time thing. I wasn't fully, with the migrant program. I was just supporting for an hour, so I didn't really know. But I think, not now knowing more about this, it's such a great opportunity, because here at the high school that I work at, I just see I don't see any Latino students attending these trips because of, the family can afford it. And I know it's pretty expensive. So now knowing about this, I think it will be a great opportunity to recruit students to go to this trip.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to share a bit of information as to what we're doing here in Region 15. So we just recently did an informational for our Omni Ambassadors Club. So we have one here at the middle school that I run, and then one at the high school that Mrs. Fuentes Priscilla runs. So it was a very successful meeting. We had 28 parents attend our meeting. And we were able to give them just information as to what, what is the Omni Ambassadors Club, what are the objectives, what are we trying to do? And the other thing that we have planned out for this next year is we're going to start, or actually I'm going to start Juntos here at the middle school because it has already been established at the high school. So that's a new project here for me that I'll be starting this next year. And we also have a DC trip for some high school students for through Close Up. So that's what's going on here at Region 15 in Ontario.
Awesome. Thank you.
I can share a little bit, Doctor.
Where are
For
you? There you are.
Hood River. Something that we're excited about right now is our clubs, they've kind of transitioned into after school clubs, but there's our student clubs. And our mascot here at Hood River Valley is the eagle. So we've called our student migrant club Águilas Unidas. And we meet once to twice a month to talk about plans for after high school, post-secondary education. We share a meal together. Sometimes we'll have guest speakers for the students. Professionals that are in their careers and maybe they're from Hood River or the area, and just have them share their stories with students. I also like to provide, a workshop every other meeting. This last meeting we met yesterday, we had a short workshop on exploring the Bureau of Labor, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics website, where you can look at different occupations and careers and kind of get an eye and a feel for how much money you can make, in different careers. So, we went around the room and shared kind of what everybody was interested in doing and saw kind of the salaries, and it was fun just to kind of poke around. And if you folks haven't checked out that website, I really encourage you to do that. Just a fun activity with them. And then we're also taking about 20 students to Close Up later this school year. Here from Hood River Valley, and I'm lucky enough to be able to get to go with the students as well, and so looking forward to that. Sounds like a lot of us are thinking the same things. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jaime. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Osvaldo.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, obviously there's a lot going on. Whatever is recent is what I'm going to share right now. So recently, our high school completed the first series of the Juntos meetings. We are obviously, we have been executing the Juntos Club since the beginning of the year, but the actual Juntos program for parents and students, the first 5 weeks ended last week. So it was a very successful event for high school families. The last meeting, I think that about 50 families gathered, and it was very amazing. Early January, when we come back from the winter break, the middle school in the Forest Grove School District will do the same. They will engage in a 4-week-long in-person, series of events. By the way, we are doing the Juntos program in person in the Forest Grove School District. Also last week, our graduation specialist developed a very interesting scholarship event in which a number of organizations and speakers gathered at the high school talking about scholarship opportunities for migrant students to be able to apply. Another important event that is happening right now this week is a holiday gift drive. We partnered with about 14 organizations from the community who are sponsoring 20 migrant families for the holidays, giving them, Christmas gifts and a whole bunch of other things, clothing, shoes, food, anything they might need to be able to make it through the holidays. One very, very interesting thing that happened to us in the last couple of weeks was that we actually were able to elect or the leadership of our PAC, Parent Advisory Committee, and we had a group of students who decided to join us, a group of high school students, and for the first time, we actually elected one a student representative. So right now, our parent advisory committee has one student member who is going to be also having a voice representing the community from the perspective of the students. So I think that we are very excited about that too. So that's what is new in region number 5.
Thank you for sharing. I have Merced's hand is up and so is Jonathan's. Either one of you.
No, I'll just, somebody else mentioning something, so I'll yield my time for my supervisor, Mr. Vernal.
No, when Osvaldo mentioned Juntos, for those of you that don't know Juntos, it's out of Oregon State University. Their claim to fame when in the past is kids that are in the Juntos program have 100% graduation rate with migrant kids. And so I thought, wow, why wouldn't everybody have a Juntos if it's offered in the region? Why wouldn't they jump on that? Who wouldn't want 100% graduation rate? But I think as more and more join them, maybe they can't keep that up. Maybe it's in the 90s. But anyway, it's just a great organization to collaborate with.
Robert, did you want to add? I think you're
Sorry, I was muted. On that note, our region here, Region 3, Columbia Gorge and the Dalles, Oregon, we do partner with the Juntos program. I think we provide a third of the coordinator's salary. And it's a wonderful program to partner with. As graduation specialist, I partner with our Juntos coordinator, Andrea Flores. We coordinate together, weekly club meetings here at the Dalles High School. And it really is a wonderful program to be a part and to collaborate with her. She actually just partnered with me. Last night we had our higher education information night for migrant families, where we had an aspired coordinator present, the local coordinator for coordinating local scholarships presented, as well as Andrea Flores for the Juntos program covering FAFSA, ORSA, and something that came out of that I want to encourage all of us graduation specialists to pay attention to is we had a young lady a couple of years ago went on to Oregon State University in the camp program, received her FAFSA award, but then she was selected for review by FAFSA, and it had something to do with her parents not filing for taxes. And it ended up being that because they couldn't provide that extra information, those funds were withdrawn. And it created a lot of disappointment, hard feelings, frustration, embarrassment, and just giving up, for this student and for this family. We were able to give services, and this student actually received 2 scholarships here locally as well that she didn't even claim because she didn't get a grade while at Oregon State when she withdrew in November. So all of that to say, your Aspire coordinator will have information and will be able to, they'll get flagged if those students are under review. And she kind of dropped through the cracks. And I think that mostly because she was reluctant or maybe embarrassed or felt like she failed. But, so communication is always tough with our students, but that was something positive that came out. And also our region will be sending approximately 20 students to participate virtually in Path to Scholarships with Gerardo Ochoa as well. But I'd love to hear more about the DC stuff. I want to do that in the future. So Jaime, I'm going to be bugging you about that.
Thank you for sharing, Robert. Bianca, you will be our last. Are you there, Bianca?
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah, I just wanted to share real quick that here in the region too, we were planning on working with the Lake Oswego Youth Outreach Program. And they basically do like a festival of arts at the end of the summer or like in the middle of the summer. And we were planning on working with them and making different workshops for families to attend, especially like high school students. That way they can kind of seeing other things as well and being able to do things outside of school. And the program really wanted to work with us, and they are willing to provide a lot of stuff for us.
It's awesome. Thank you. There's some really good things happening out there in the school, in the regions and school districts and so on. So we had 10 regions share out of the, I think it's 18 regions. So the rest of you can think about what you're going to say next time when we meet. Very quickly here, because we need to be done in just a minute here. So Haida, I'm looking for you on my screen.
Yes.
Haida, would you give us, so you're on the advisory group. Can you give us a short report on what we're doing there and what we expect from everyone?
Yeah, so during the last couple of meetings, we learned about how to distress and help others. And one of the main topics that we learned about has been about ACEs. So ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. This encompasses various forms of physical and emotional abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction experienced in childhood. It can have negative effects on health as well as in academics or professional life. ACEs are preventable, but we need to understand and address the factors. I do have an example, but I'm not sure if we have enough time.
Let's make time for it. It's important.
Okay, for example, I had a student who was not doing well grade-wise. They had multiple missing assignments due to getting sick with COVID. I constantly checked in, but they consistently said they did not need help with their assignments. I asked, if that's the case, why haven't you been turning any assignments in? Finally, I asked when and where they did their homework, and that's when I found out they did homework at the school library for only 2 hours after school. So they did not have internet at home because their father stopped working and stopped paying for internet, although internet has become an essential in modern learning. So these sorts of factors can be quiet. So sometimes the students we work with do not have the courage to speak up, and that's where we come in, because it's our job to pay attention to the signs and help our students reach their full potential.
So if we were to document that case that you just relayed to us, Haida, how would we do that on the service log? How would we document that in the service log?
It's a good question.
Yeah, because that's a big service that you did because our job, everything that we do narrows down into advocacy and case management, right?
Right.
We've talked about this before. So how would that fall into? Would that be advocacy? Is that code? I don't know them all by heart, but is it 31?
I believe so. And I think it would also be a good opportunity to refer them to other resources as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's because we do a lot of work, and oftentimes we don't really fit them into those categories that we really can sort of justify our work. I have tentatively secured Ventanillas del Consulado de Mexico to be our resource speakers for next month. So that is tentative. It hasn't been confirmed quite yet. And it's important also that you do the evaluation of today's meeting, because I am reading them. And that's how we ended up doing the updates from the field, because I had no information on that prior. So I do want to thank you for taking the time. I receive a lot of mail at home. And one of the things that I received was this little note, asking for money and so on. And I did not realize that there are more than 3.5 million homeless kids in this country. 3.5, this is what was quoted in one of these data sheets that came into my mail. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I found Donna's presentation very informative, as a great resource that I'm hoping that all of you will be using and following up on. And I will be sending notes from our meeting today. I don't want to take any more of your time because we've gone over time, and send you the PowerPoint as well, so you can access those resources. But so thank you for the time, and I will stay here as long as need to. We're going to stop recording at this time.